Picture this, being able to squeeze 2 egg retrieval cycles in sort of the time frame that it would take normally to do one. DuoStim, also known as dual stimulation or the Shanghai protocol, is a protocol where, unlike conventional IVF, where someone undergoes stimulation coming off of birth control or on day 2 or day 3 of their period for about 8 to 10 days of shots, and then they have their egg retrieval, and then they wait to get their next period if they need to think about doing another cycle. Unlike that, DuoStim is where you're actually doing back-to-back cycles that are kind of overlapping. So you go through the process, you have your egg retrieval, and you retrieve those follicular phase stimulated eggs, and then about 4 to 5 days after the retrieval is over, you come back in and you start your morning monitoring again, and you're taking your shots to stimulate in the hopes of stimulating a secondary cohort of follicles. The premise of DuoStim is based on the idea that in reality, our biology isn't as simple as you recruit a bunch of eggs, those are the eggs that you work with, and you get them out, and then you recruit a new set in the following cycle. It's actually more like ongoing waves of recruitment. So this is thought to be an opportunity to try to get more out of a given menstrual cycle and to try to get that secondary cohort. The biggest proponents of DuoStim are using this for women with DOR, saying if IVF is such a numbers game and DOR poses an issue, then maybe this can allow us to get more out of one cycle of effort. But in reality, it is 2 cycles. It's just 2 cycles that are overlapping. Now, the way this has been traditionally used has been for patients who are undergoing cancer treatments, patients who have a time crunch. They don't have a lot of time. They need to get as many eggs as they can. And at the end of it, they're going to then go into chemo or radiation surgery, things that are going to irreversibly render them infertile or putting them in menopause. And so in that case, it is actually justified if you really don't have 2 separate 2-week windows to try to do something like DuoStim. And the results from our experience with cancer patients and doing luteal phase stimulations in general is reassuring. We're seeing that luteal phase stimulation can yield comparable embryos when it comes to their quality compared to those that come from eggs that were stimulated during the follicular phase. But it's still not something that I have incorporated into my practice. So why aren't we all doing this if this is better for patients? Well, as of now, there have only been 2 randomized controlled trials looking at DuoStim versus conventional stimulation, where you're just doing one regular cycle and then waiting to get a period and then doing a second. And one of them actually shows that the DuoStim group had worse results. The first study, published in 2023, showed that the DuoStim group had a lower number of usable embryos. However, what they did in their study was the first cohort that were retrieved in the first retrieval, they froze them, and then they took them and thawed those frozen eggs with the second batch. So who knows? I mean, it may have affected the results negatively. There was a second study that compared dual ovarian stimulation with doing 2 conventional back-to-back ovarian stimulation in poor responders with DOR that were undergoing IVF. And what they found in 80 women that they compared over the age of 38, they found that there was no difference in ovarian stimulation outcomes. So overall, it didn't seem that there would be an advantage to rushing forward and doing a double stimulation back-to-back without a break in between. Now, I do think there is a significant benefit to being able to take a short break and wait for your period. I think doing DuoStim requires twice the stimulation, twice the number of retrievals, so you're not really saving on costs or medications. And there isn't enough long-term data to show that it actually can improve live birth rates. There's no data that shows that. And that's the ultimate measure of success, right? One could start doing another egg retrieval cycle as soon as they get their period, which sometimes is going to be like a week and a half after their egg retrieval. So if you're starting the next round of stimulation with DuoStim 4 to 5 days after the egg retrieval, how much time are you saving? You're maybe saving 4 to 7 days. So is it worth it? And if this idea that there's continuous recruitment of follicles throughout the cycle, then one could argue waiting the extra week for more fresh recruits to come up to bat might actually be advantageous. Furthermore, I think it is really beneficial to see what the full outcome of the initial cycle that a person does ends up being, because it might influence the way that I navigate the next cycle. And it may give me really valuable insight into how they performed and what I could do better to try to improve their overall outcome. I think for the majority of patients, the discomfort, the risk, the financial burden, the logistical complexity, I think that it all outweighs any possible benefit. And I don't think you're saving that much time.